It's the Fellowship of the Geek Show, a weekly podcast about comics, the comic book industry, and other geek pop culture. Music courtesy of Manny the Martyr. And now, on with the show! Hey there, everybody. This is the Fellowship of the Geeks podcast. My name is Thomas Chick, and joining me for this episode is Mike Marlowe.
Hey, gang.
Les Webster.
Hello, all.
And Liz Newman.
Hello, everybody.
How are you guys doing?
Groovy.
Yep.
Great.
I didn't mean to stump everybody.
It's one of those things that you do it every time, and none of us are ever prepared for it. I don't quite know why that is, but
Yeah.
it's weird.
I hope everybody out there is doing okay. So, what's been going on in your corner of the galaxy?
All right, Liz went first last week, so I'll jump in there. So my week was interesting in a couple of different ways. For one, I was doing probably more work than I needed to prepare for what we're doing this evening. But in addition to that, we'll get to that later, obviously. In addition to that, I got something a little weird happened with my kid. So normally he gets home about an hour before I do. So he comes in the house and he texts me, so it lets me know he's home, and he ends up texting like half a dozen other family members. It's an interesting dynamic, but anyway. But so Wednesday, I believe it was, he didn't text me. He called me instead at work. So my first thought is, oh crap, what happened? But so I answer the phone and he's like, guess what happened to me at school today? Or no, I said that wrong. Guess what I got at school today? Because he's like 13 and he's right in the middle of that guess what phase, where that's how he starts every conversation. And since I'm getting a little frustrated with that already, my response was green hair. And he says, no, as if I'm the weirdest thing in the world. I got tickets to Texas Legends games. I was like, wait, what? So the deal was, apparently at lunchtime, his principal was walking around handing out passes to Texas Legends games. If you're not familiar, which non-local listeners might not be familiar, the Texas Legends is the local D-League team for the Dallas Mavericks. So we're talking professional basketball, not NBA basketball, but professional basketball. And they play at a small arena about 15 minutes from my house. And so turns out he had gotten 3 tickets for the game today, this afternoon, which we record these about a week in advance. So this is Sunday, the whatever the date is, 26th. I think it's 26th.
Yep.
And Friday, the 31st, there's a 7:30 game. And so we went to the basketball game, and Friday evening we will go to the basketball game. And
Wow.
there you go. It was.
And he just got them because?
She was just handing them out. She's like, hey, who wants passes? And he happened to be sitting there going, Texas Legends. And he remembered, I guess, that I had said something about, hey, because we went to a couple of games last year. It's kind of fun and pretty inexpensive, generally speaking. But I had mentioned like a month ago, hey, I should get off my butt and go get tickets for a game sometime before the season ends, which it ends like sometime in March. So I still had time, but turns out he got us free tickets instead. So that was kind of cool.
Wow, that is cool.
All you have to do is pay for parking and $4 for a bottle of water and $5 for a very small thing of Dippin' Dots, because you can't not have Dippin' Dots. I don't know what that is. Those things are crack, I swear. But anyway, it was fun.
How long was the pause he had when you said green hair?
Uh, there was a pause for sure.
Oh.
I can't say it was a long pause because he ain't got that kind of patience, but it was a pause. I stumped him for just a second there.
That's cool, though.
Yeah.
Yep, pretty fun
That is pretty cool.
and kind of random.
It's a good thing your son got off his butt and got you tickets instead.
Yeah, instead of waiting for my sorry ass to do it. Jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really.
Who knows if that was going to happen? Jeez. No, I'd have done it. I just hadn't yet. Like I said, I had time. It's not like
Sure.
these games sell out. I mean, they're not NBA games,
No.
but I mean they're still fun.
Oh, they're fascinating. These are the guys that are trying to move up.
Yeah, so they're
Yeah.
trying. They're like busting their butts, and it's interesting to watch, for sure.
This was basketball.
Mm-hmm. I know. Sports, it's crazy, right?
Right.
I'm not nearly as big a sports fan as I used to be either, but it's still fun to go sit and watch a basketball game.
Yeah.
See, I can't watch sports on TV, but I've been to a few like baseball games and that kind of thing, and it is more fun in person than it is to,
Well, and if you're going to the right venue, they're like you know how I mean you're watching it on TV, they have commercial breaks and stuff. Well,
Yeah.
if you're there when they're having commercial breaks, the people in the stadium are still there. So if they're good, they'll make some effort to entertain them.
Yeah.
So there's interesting stuff that goes on, which is not game related, during the commercial breaks that the people on TV watching it are getting. I mean, the Legends, this is not on TV, so, but they're still owned by the Mavericks organization, so they still make the effort like they would for the NBA team. It's fun.
That's cool.
Yeah. Very nice.
Yep.
Hmm. Well, I don't really have anything this week.
Oh hell!
I know.
Get comfy, because when she says that, we're here for half an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've still been dealing with my back, and honestly, I fell down the Lifetime movie hole, so
Oh no!
No.
I won't go
Oh.
there.
Please spare us that.
Yeah, Phil came in earlier and watched like 5 minutes of it. He was like, "Oh, I can already tell you what's going to happen." It's like, yeah, I can too, but
Right, that's not the point.
like the other 6 I've watched today,
No, exactly the same plot. I mean, come on.
Yeah,
They don't even try
sometimes
to
it's a
hide it.
girl, sometimes it's a guy, but yeah, so
And it's Christmas, and she has to teach the people to sing.
yeah. And true love really does exist. Now, these have all been like stalkers and psychos, so.
Oh,
Yeah. Christmas is over with. So now we'll go back to the traditional stalkers,
so Lifetime's
psychotic people.
Lifetime's '90s phase then, huh? This is
The other end of the spectrum.
right, the Punisher years of Lifetime movies.
And then I watched a thing on Ted Kaczynski the other night.
Ah, the Unabomber.
Yeah, I didn't realize he went to like Harvard and stuff, so it was like, wow.
Oh yeah, smart and crazy are not often that far apart.
Yeah.
You don't have to be dumb to be crazy.
And it's kind of, his intelligence was how he was able to build his bombs and stay undetected for how long he did, and
Pre-internet.
yeah. So that one was kind of interesting. His own brother was the one who,
Turned him in. Yeah.
yeah, I would say sold him out because he needed to get off the street. I think if my sister was running around killing people, I would stand up and say something too. It would be hard because that's your family, but at the same time, people are dying.
Right. How many other families is she ruining?
Yeah.
In this hypothetical situation.
Right.
Just saying.
Yeah, thanks for pointing that out.
Yeah.
We're not accusing your sister of anything real here. That's just saying.
Yeah. I don't know about my oldest,
Yeah, if we're not going there, that's fine.
Uh, yeah, that's pretty much what I've been doing. The pity hole.
All right, romance and serial killers. Got it.
Although I have Phil on his toes, I've been watching like Snapped and Forensic Science and stuff too, and it's like, I could probably kill you 20 different ways and get rid of your body in 10 different ways. All from watching 7 hours of TV.
Is that something to brag about, or
No, probably not.
Okay,
thinking-
Liz,
Not out in public, anyway.
you do realize we are recording this right now.
Right.
I'm just thinking that whatever you learned in 7 hours of TV is nowhere near enough to get away with anything. Don't.
And no, because if anything, the first rule is you don't go on the internet and tell everybody what you're going to do.
That's a good start, right? They pretty much brought that up in the first episode, I'm sure.
Right. But, sometimes you're watching these things and it's like, duh. I mean, did you not realize they were going to find your gun, or maybe you shouldn't have left your phone there, or,
Well, and most of these shows are about the ones who got caught anyway, so
Right.
you're not really learning that much useful here.
Right.
Or like the bank robber who goes in and hands up a hold up note, and it's actually the backside of a bill.
Right.
Right.
So there's his name and address on the other side.
Or a deposit slip that he's filled out from his own checking. Really?
Just going,
or the guy that forgot to cut the eye holes in his pillowcase?
Oh, man. Well, they did have one on, it was local. It was what was his name? It was like the pretty faced bank robber or something like that, but he used a silicone mask. And so people didn't, at first it was like something was off about him. But, nowadays you don't want to stare at people, because you might get shot, especially in Texas,
Right.
So they never really caught on that this was a mask he was wearing until like his 5th, 6th bank robbery. And then once they figured out the mask, they went online, found out only so many people make them, and
boom, boom, boom.
the rest from there,
right?
Yeah, knew who he was before he even had a clue. But he did something stupid too, like left his car keys or something at the scene. And so they were able to use like his car clicker to find his car, and there's the money, there's his title and insurance.
Nice.
So most of the time it's people's greed and stupidity that get them caught.
Not that we're advocating this type of behavior or anything.
No, not at all. Not at all.
It may just be stupidity. We don't even have to go to greed.
Right. Greed,
Yeah.
Greed,
Well, no, there's been a lot. They killed him for his business, or, one wife had screwed the books up so bad that she killed him so she didn't have to tell him. It's like, are you kidding?
that seems a long way to go, doesn't it?
I was about to say that's
Yeah.
kind of extreme, but yeah.
That
I mean,
she
I
did
can
it.
believe it, right? I believe it
Yep.
entirely. Hell, I've watched Perry Mason. I know stuff like that happens, but yeah.
And, some of these shows are so old, though, that you're watching the end and they're like, yeah, they're up for parole in 2020. And you're like, oh, shit.
Right, that's like next week. What?
These are going to be the assholes I'm walking next to. So, yeah. But no, I don't think there's ever any justification for killing somebody. For the record.
It's not like she has to say that because of the settlement or anything. I mean,
All right,
it's what they call a
But a
condition
lot
of the
of it-
parole.
If you're that unhappy, leave, But a lot of it could have been worked out. I don't think the husband would have killed her for messing the books up, He seemed crazy about her, so just kind of sad.
Crazy?
Yeah.
Crazy?
Crazy attracts crazy.
I don't know. Let's ask Phil about that.
Oh, he's crazy. You've read his Facebook, right?
Oh gosh.
It's good to be able to throw your husband under the bus so soon.
He would me.
So Les.
I was hoping you would just pass over, but I was watching movies too, and I've got two that I'm going to highly recommend. The first is Planet of Dinosaurs. You can watch this on YouTube, on Amazon Prime, and it is funny, not meant to be, and it's got horrible special effects. So be sure. I'm sorry?
Said it's right down your alley.
Oh, it is, yes. Yeah, some of the worst movies ever. The other was even worse. It is called God Monster of Indian Flats. This too is on Amazon Prime, and it too is horrible. It's a mutant animal that goes crazy, but not until like the last 10 minutes of the movie. It's about a sheep farmer who gets beat up by the city slickers. Okay, now the mutant animal is a mutant sheep that stands about 8 feet tall. Obviously, it's a man in a rubber suit, and it's just funny as can be. The dialogue is amusing. The acting is horrible. So it blends so well.
Is it horrible or bad?
Wow.
But
Only you would recommend a movie like this, Les?
yeah, that's it. Ram it on home. I'm going to recommend it also because it is bad. So yes, it's another that I would watch again. Why, I don't know, but I would try anyway.
Well, you won't hear a peep from me.
Yeah. They even have a riff tracks for it.
Oh, well, I'm not.
Yes, they do. And in fact, that's where I first saw it. I saw it on Riff Tracks. I said, I got to see what this is.
So then you chose to watch it without the riff tracks?
Yes.
Damn, that's commitment right there.
That's bravery.
Yeah, committed, all right.
Right. And the monster looks like a cross between Krampus and a sheep.
Yes. It does.
Sheepus.
A sheepus, there you go.
I got nothing.
Not even gonna try to top that, huh?
Honestly, I mean, I'm being honest. I have a big bag of nothing this week, so sorry, kind of let everybody down after all that.
So anticlimactic.
Maybe I should have gone first. Oh well. Before we get into this week's discussion, I do want to make everybody aware of our monthly meet and gabs. Is coming up here real soon. Be Saturday, February 8th. If you're not familiar with this, or if this is your first time listening to us, well, first of all, thank you for listening. But every second Saturday of the month, we do what we call a meet and gab. We hang out at a place. This particular place is Wing City. It's located at 1456 Beltline Road in Garland. Zip is 75044. So if you're in the Dallas-Fort Worth area and like to come hang out with us, by all means do. Just have some good food, have some great conversation about anything that's going on in the geek universe, and it's always a blast. We've been doing it for a little over a year now, and it's always been fun. So come hang out with us if you can. And we also take donations for the charity that we're working with, which is Comics for Kids. And it's a charity that delivers comics to kids in hospitals and cancer centers. So if you have any new or new all ages and teen books and would like to donate them to, please bring them to us, and we will shoot them their way. You can find out more information about the event on our website, which is www.thefellowshipofthegeeks.net, and just click on the events page. There's something there. And we also have a Facebook event set up, so if you are following us on Facebook, you can check that out. Or if you're not following us on Facebook, then please follow us. There's also a tab on the website for Comics for Kids. You'll see it as CB4K. And a little explanation about the charity and some of the stuff they have available. Links to, if you want to just go ahead and get some information on sending the books directly to them, you can do that. Or if you would like to make a financial donation, which the funds would go to for shipping the books across the United States and Canada, you can do that. They also offer some merchandise that's exclusively for them, and all the funds go to the charity for the shipping. There's a coloring book that has original art from a lot of big names in the comic industry. There's most recently the Doctor Who special. Yeah, the Christmas special comic that's put up by Titan. They have their own exclusive variant cover, and you'll see that on the page. And recently announced, there is going to be a C2E2 Comic Books for Kids variant for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles number 102, and it's using previously unpublished art by co-creator Kevin Eastman. Kevin Eastman has donated this art to the charity to be used as the variant cover, and it looks great. And that's such an awesome news. So I believe he said there's going to be like 100 copies just available, and some are being actually sent out to. I'm trying to remember what's happening to some of the other copies. I think they're being sent to overseas to our servicemen, I believe. So there's also a link there on our website. So if you're interested in pre-ordering a copy, because they're not available just yet, you could do that. And you know what? If you do that, if you let them know that we sent them your way, they would be grateful to know that, and we would be happy to know that we've sent them your way. So just mention the fellowship when you do that. Okay. Alrighty. For this week, we are once again joined by Madeline Holly Rosen, who is the writer-creator of Boston Metaphysical Society. We've had her on a couple times before, and she's returned to talk about her brand new Kickstarter for Ghosts and Demons. The campaign is currently going. So, with that, here is our interview with Madeline. And we're here with Madeline Holly Rosen. If you're a longtime listener of the Fellowship, that name sounds familiar. We've had her on. We've been fortunate enough to have her on before. She is the writer and creator of Boston Metaphysical Society, and we have a new adventure coming coming up, and she's got a brand new Kickstarter to support that. So, Madeline, thank you for being with us once again.
Well, thank you for having me. I think it's been about a year. You guys are always kind enough to bring me on when I'm running a Kickstarter, which I really appreciate. Thank you very much.
Well, you're more than welcome. We're happy to have you on.
We are.
To get the word out. If there's anyone new who's listening, who has no idea what Boston Metaphysical Society is, it's a steampunk supernatural series about an ex-Pinkerton detective, a spirit photographer, and a genius scientist who battles supernatural forces in late 1800s Boston. We started off with a 6-issue miniseries and have since spun off into, right now there's 2 standalone sequels, and we're kickstarting our 3rd standalone sequel, along with a coloring book, our first ever coloring book, which we can talk about. And there's also a prequel novel and a prequel anthology of short stories and novellas.
Wow. Yeah.
I've been busy.
Yeah, you
it's
have.
building up quick here, right?
Yeah. And hasn't one of the series been picked up by a publisher? I'm trying to remember which the name of the publishing company.
Oh, Source Point Press.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah, Source Point, who they're great. They're absolutely terrific. Picked up the original 6-issue miniseries and the trade paperback. We hit Diamond distribution last year, and so they decided to reissue the individual issues again, and which was pretty exciting to actually see the comic in stores around the country. We went national, so that was pretty exciting. And the trade paperback will hit previews in March, so not too long from now. So basically, as soon as I finish the Kickstarter, I have to get on the phone and start cold calling retailers to convince them to pick up the trade.
Never a dull moment.
Mm-hmm.
Never, ever. But it all pays off in the long run, and it's really exciting because this past year, my husband and I did Rose City in Portland, Oregon, and I hadn't been up there for a few years, but we had people come to the table who had gotten the individual issues from their local store, but then wanted, the trade and, pristine stuff. Like they were going to read the trade, but they wanted me to sign the individual issues, which they were keeping all packaged and clean. And it was just like, oh my God.
They're collecting your book.
They're collecting my book.
That's
and I'm just
awesome.
I was so flattered. It's such an honor when somebody does that. And stuff like that, it just, makes all the hard work worth it.
Sure.
That's cool. So, do you want to tell us about Ghosts and Demons?
Sure. Happy to do that. Ghosts and Demons is our 3rd standalone sequel, and it's, to call it inspired by, I guess you could. It's inspired by a short story I wrote a while ago called Here Abide Monsters, which was originally published in an anthology through Thinking Ink Press called Sometime Later. And if you recall, in the first couple issues of the original series, you meet a character briefly, Duncan the Ghost. Well, Here Abide Monsters is it's his origin story. It's how he became a ghost. And what I did was take one of the characters from that story and loop it back in to give that storyline closure. So I offer both the an EPUB version of the short story in various tiers, but also in backer kit we'll be offering a ebook copy and paperback copy of the original anthology Sometime Later, if people want to pick that up after the campaign is done. But like everything I do, and I think Mike really realizes this, is that everything I write, there's linkage between everything. So even though it's standalone, it informs the larger storyline that's going on within the world.
Yeah, there are a lot of connections between things, that's for sure. Which, honestly, that's that's to my mind anyway, and maybe it's just a weirdness in how I read. That's just good writing, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, that's nothing else. It's really hard, especially as the world grows, like yours is starting to now. I'm really hopeful that you can keep up with all of that stuff, and it'll be. I'm looking forward to seeing more. Obviously, I mean, the like you said, the Kickstarter is fully funded, so it's happening.
Yeah, no, it's definitely happening. And I know last year I think I talked about my next novel, which will be set in the same universe, but 35 years before Samuel, Caitlin, and Granville, about the House Wars, which was my version of the American Civil War. And I did finish a first draft of that, send it to my beta readers, who I must say I really love them because they're very kind, but they're also very truthful. So when I get certain types of notes back, I know work needs to be done. So yeah, that has some rewriting to go through. So I'm not sure when that's going to be out, but it's not going to be out until it's ready. Quite frankly.
Well, and that's cool. That's good.
Yeah.
And the other thing that's awesome about your Kickstarters in general is that the book is all but done. I mean, it's not like now that it's funded, it's not like we're going to have to wait a year and a half to get this thing. It's going to be done in a couple of months, pretty much, right?
Yes. Yeah, Ghosts and Demons is actually in the hands of my letterer right now. It would have been finished, but poor Troy has had some terrible migraines, so I needed him to go feel better first. But we're fine. I mean, our production schedule is totally fine. And Alejandro Lee, who I hired to do the coloring book, is halfway done with the illustrations. So we're well on our way. And my pre-press guy knows all of this is coming, so I let people know, like, a month ahead of time or months ahead of time, saying, like, okay, put on your calendar about mid to late January-ish, this is going to be coming your way. And they say, okay, and then it shows up.
Oh, and I bet they love you for it, too.
Oh, they do. And I also pay on time, which I love even more.
Oh, entirely, yes.
But no, I've known Alejandro for quite a while. We met on the con circuit. He does a really cute all-ages comic called Sally Sprocket and Piston Pete. He's a very talented artist, and I knew at some point I wanted to work with him, and it wasn't until I thought about doing the coloring book that I'm going like, oh my God, he would be perfect. His style is perfect for it. And so worked out a budget, and off we went. So I can certainly send you guys. Have you've seen the cover, right? And some of the
Yeah, the cover's on the Kickstarter page, and the cover is awesome.
It is.
Yeah.
That is very cool.
And I like the sample illustrations because a lot of times in the coloring books, they like black out, they color half the black for you. So it's like, what are you coloring? These are really nice illustrations to color.
Yeah, and you'll also get Bell, Edison, Tesla, and Houdini will be in there.
Very cool.
I think the Tesla tank, and I had the original 6-issue miniseries. I think he's going to do his version of the Tesla tank, and some other compositions in there as well. So I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Very nice.
So where did the idea of the coloring book come from? Was that something that you've kind of had in your mind for a while, or is this just something that kind of popped up? Hey, that would be cool.
The latter. It was. I was thinking. I knew I wasn't gonna get a novel out this year, and I wanted to have something else besides, Ghosts and Demons.
Mhm.
And I also knew if I found the right person, we could get it done fairly quickly. And I did. So it all worked out. But yeah, I was very happy to get funded in 3 days.
Wow.
I owe that all to mostly returning backers and people who like the story. So I'm very happy that they believe I will deliver for them, because obviously I will. So
You've done it several times already. That
I've
helps.
done it several. Yeah, this is actually number 8 for me.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
got to be a great feeling that quickly that
Mhm.
you're already having to think of stretch goals, which I'm sure you already have several planned out, but just already having to announce them the third day it's in its run. That's got to be awesome feeling.
Oh yeah, no, it's wonderful. As you guys know, I taught crowdfunding, and I have the crowdfunding book Kickstarter for the independent creators. But as I tell everyone, you should always budget and plan for at least 3 stretch goals before you even start. That way, if you do well, they're in your back pocket. You're ready to go, and you're not scrambling at the last minute trying to get something up there. And also, if you take the time to budget them, then you don't do something that will come back to bite you in the butt later. I often see with creators, particularly with games, they'll go like, oh, wow, let's do this really cool stretch goal, and don't really figure out how much it's going to cost. And it ends up costing them more than what the stretch goal was worth.
Right. Cutting into the budget for everything else that they've already committed to do. Mm-hmm.
Correct. I always emphasize, have at least 3 in your back pocket, make sure they're budgeted, and that'll give you time, if you're doing really well, to go figure out the rest if you need to.
So you mentioned relying on, or at least being, I'm not sure what the word I'm looking for there is, but uh, the fact that you get a lot of return buyers on the Kickstarters. One of the things I think is a key to that, in your case specifically, is the newsletter that you put out. How long have you been doing that, and what goes into that?
The newsletter I've probably been doing about 4 years maybe, and I used to just do it every few months, because it does eat into my own time to do it. But then I realized that I really needed to do it monthly. I'm never going to be able to do it weekly like some people do. I think those people probably have PAs or something who do it for them. But yeah, I just try to keep it really basic and fun. Give people information of like, okay, here's what's going on with Boston Metaphysical, and here's what I'm doing. If there's a new story, or while we're in previews, I would announce, I know you guys already have it, but in case you don't, here's, it's in previews. I do reviews, as you've probably seen, Mike, which is always fun because I do reviews for Fanbase Press. I'm doing the series Ascender right now. I'm waiting for, I think, Ascender number 9 to come in, which is really good. And I never read Descender, but I got the first volume of that for Christmas and really enjoyed that, so I'm probably going to get the rest. Then I try to find, something unique or interesting. Like I think in the last one was about what was it? I don't even remember now. Maybe you do. Was it Newton or not Newton, who saved his mother from being burned as a witch or something? Was it Sir Isaac Newton or somebody else? I forgot now. My memory's going. But and just things that people be interested in, and I obviously do, some book swaps with people, novelists of things that, 99-cent books or things that people be interested in, and then call it a day. I kind of think of as a newsletter as, it's Thursday or Friday afternoon, you're sitting at work, you're tired, you really don't want to do anything else, but you got to be there for a few more minutes. It's like, I can go read the newsletter and just see what's there, spend my 5-10 minutes, and then you're done, delete, you're on your way.
Okay, you really need to get out of my head now. Because that is almost exactly what I did this last time.
Yeah. Yeah, because you can peruse it quickly. It's like, okay, this interests me and this interests me, or you look at it like, okay, these two things interest me, so I'm going to come back to it later. And then it's like, oh yeah, I want to read the review on that particular thing. Yeah, there's a gentleman, if you like fantasy that's really well grounded, I was really impressed with Goblin, and I think Goblin Apprentice by, I think, Gerald Garrick. In that he kind of flipped it in that I think in most fantasy where there's goblins and dragons and such, they're always, that world is before the human world really comes up, but exists, but he's completely flipped it, that there was some sort of apocalypse of some sort, and the civilizations that survived were the goblins and the dragons and the creatures that we would think of as being fantasy-like creatures, but in fact, they weren't. So, yeah, he did a really good job with that.
So we were the fantasy creatures?
No, we started the apocalypse.
Oh, well, of course, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, and they were the end result. They became masters of the universe, not us.
That is interesting. Yeah.
That is.
Yeah, it's kind of a flip, but the major conflict is because the humans have decided that they want the old knowledge back, which is essentially bombs and guns and crap, and it's up to the goblins and the dragons and the fantasy creatures to basically keep that knowledge away from them, because humans are dangerous.
Oh yes, definitely.
Yeah. But yeah, I could talk about books I review all the time. It's fun. I like to read. I think if you're going to be a writer, you need to be a reader.
Right, and I think a lot of writers kind of fall into the trap of they get busy writing, and they just the reading just sort of trickles off and they stop. And I mean that's a bad thing in the long run, because you're not getting new stuff coming into your head, and what's coming out is going to go stale fast.
Yeah, it's also, for me, really relaxing, because what you said, that's exactly what happened to me about a year or so ago. And I just said, to my husband, I said, I really need to cut out time. I need to go back and read more, because I'm working all the time, and this is one of the few things I enjoy. And he says, okay, well, let's, make sure you do that. And so it's been a lot of fun, and even picked up my first cozy book. You guys know what cozy books are? Cozy murder books?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my wife reads a bunch of those.
I mean, I had no idea. I had to have some friends explain to me. I was like, what is a cozy book? It sounds like, huh? But I'm reading one from Kristen Weiss right now, and it's really clever, and it's a lot of fun. So I can see why people like it.
Yeah, it's an interesting sort of twist on the murder mystery in that it's sort of, in a way, it kind of takes a lot of the risk out of it and takes a lot of the gruesome. I mean, you get, especially with TV nowadays, you get all the cop shows, and they all have to have the autopsy scene, and it's just so gruesome. And so the cozy ones, I like. I mean, I don't consume a whole lot of them, but I like that it sort of takes that out of it, and it allows character development, and it allows people to interact, and it makes it kind of gives it a different emphasis.
Yeah. The one I'm reading right now, which of course the title totally escapes me. I mean, I read a lot so much now that it's like I have to go back and like, what? Okay, what's the title? But it was very clever because it's about a witch who has lost her magical powers, but she's a metaphysical detective, and her familiar is a gargoyle that's alive, and it speaks French. Hops around her house. Leaves skid marks on the floor because it was made out of concrete or stone or something. But things are dangerous, and though the people who have been murdered, sometimes they do die gruesomely. You're usually not right there. It's not right in your face, like you said. So, which makes it kind of nice. And we have enough of that in the real life. We don't need to read about it.
Right. It's almost as if somebody took a chunk of the murder mystery genre and woodhoused the crap out of it real quick, and there's some really fun stuff in there.
Yeah.
I've never heard of cozy books.
I hadn't either. That sounds interesting.
It does.
The only reason I know is there's a steampunk convention I go to every year called Clockwork Alchemy. It's this year it's in Burlingame up near San Francisco, and a number of the other authors there write cozies. Kristen is one of them, and I decided, I guess she had one of her books on sale or something. I said, I'm gonna finally go grab one of her books, and she writes and she sells these things like crazy. And now I'm going like, okay, now I know why she sells these things like crazy, because they're so entertaining. And even though I dropped into this book, it's part of a larger series, I dropped into this book and, got it immediately. I mean, what the world was, what her issues were. Yeah, she lost her magic, but she gave enough information that I knew, so it was fine. So yeah, if you like cozies, if your wife likes cozies, have her go look up Kristen Weiss. It's Weiss, I believe.
Okay,
Excellent.
writing that down.
I am too. That sounds pretty good.
I enjoy cozies also, especially if what I consider them fair mysteries. And what I mean by fair is that you don't introduce the killer in about the penultimate chapter, or it's somebody that has appeared early in the book, and you get to think about it instead of cramming it in. So many times I've seen in the last chapter and go, I'm supposed to be surprised by this. You just introduce the character. But a cozy, I even like the old books. Just an older book, even Murder on the Orient Express. Something like that was cozy to me because I could sit, enjoy, and actually think about trying to solve the same mystery. There's where I like a cozy.
Yeah.
Right, and again, you get into that well-written thing when the writer can surprise you at the end without dropping a brand new character in who's, oh hey, this is the murderer now. Like,
right.
Right.
If they're
make
doing
it fit.
Yeah, if they're doing it right, it all fits together from the beginning. And I mean, I've heard a lot of writers talk about one of the tricks they use for that is to start at the end and work their way back.
True.
As far as building the story in that regard, but it's one.
Hey, however it works.
All right.
I found the name of the book, so here we go. It's called The Alchemical. I can't even pronounce it. Alchemical Detective. ALCHEMICAL. A Riga Hayworth Mystery. That's Riga, Hayworth. Instead of Rita, it's Riga.
Cool.
And yeah, good on her. Hopefully I'm doing Clockwork actually probably in like 6 weeks, something like that. Hopefully she'll be there and I'll go like, I finally read one of your books. It was great. I can see why you sell them all the time. I'm so jealous. But yeah, no, it's really cute. It does say it's a Riga Hayworth Paranormal Mystery Book 1, but I get the feeling that maybe we've been introduced to her in something else that probably Kristen has written, but I wouldn't know. So anyway, it's good. So if you like cozies, you'll like this. But I haven't gotten to the end yet, so I don't know if she's crammed it into the end, but I suspect she has not.
Well, hopefully we haven't loaded you up with prejudgment here then.
Yeah. No, I suspect she hasn't. I have a feeling it's someone I've already met. That's what my gut is telling me.
The murderer is someone in this room.
Yes, that's right.
Well, that's a segue if I ever heard one.
Okay.
So you mentioned cons. What cons are you going to be at this year?
I will be at, I have the list here. I have a pop-up con called ShiroCon, March 7th. That will be at the Culver City Westfield Mall? And that's just like from 12 to 6. That'll be fun. Clockwork Alchemy is from March 20th to the 22nd. Then I have confirmed WonderCon. And Denver, I'll be back in Denver. I'll be back at San Diego. Actually waiting to hear about Silicon Valley. And I'm confirmed for go back to Rose City in Portland.
Cool.
And there may be, I applied to the Fan Expo Boston to see if I can get there as a guest. Hopefully, yes. I mean, obviously, since I'm in California, that's an expensive trip for me. So if I can get in as a guest, that's probably something I can wing.
So to speak.
Yeah. And talking to SourcePoint Press, I usually work their booth at the Los Angeles Comic-Con. Because they go to all the cons. Their SourcePoint is everywhere. Hardest working publishing company you've ever seen. So yeah, I work their booth, but I'm talking about, depending on how the budget lays out for the year, if I don't get into New York Comic Con, going out there anyway and just working the booth for them. So.
Very cool.
So we shall see. And then there's probably be some smaller events around, which I don't know about yet.
Neat.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it'll be another busy year.
Out there pressing the flesh.
Yep.
Yeah, but it's the best way to do it. I mean, it really is.
That's what we keep hearing from folks.
But it's not easy too. You have to learn how to sell, and the mistake I see people doing is sitting behind their table and not looking at anybody. And either if they're an artist, they're just drawing and not engaging anybody, or waiting for people to come to the table instead of drawing them to the table.
Yeah, it's tough though. I mean, because I mean a lot of people who do that are like hardcore introverts, and
Mm-hmm.
it's really hard. I mean, I mean, I'm an introvert, and I've been to cons and I've worked a table at a con, and that's hard on me. I mean, I have a real hard time. So I kind of empathize with the ones who really kind of don't pull it off all that well. But yeah, It's the
I'm
kind of thing you have to learn to do. I mean, you just have to do it.
yeah, I'm an introvert as well, and it's something you have to learn how to do, and you have to do it in a way that works for your own personality. And one of the things I've done, and it's worked well for me, is, I have my bookmarks that have the characters on them and the artwork that Emily and or Gwen has done. And I'll say like, hey, would you like a bookmark? And if they're looking at me like kind of suspicious, I just will laugh and go like, hey, it's free. Don't worry about it. Oh, you just need to talk to me. And then you just start talking and you pitch, and you can tell if they're going to be engaged or not because their eyes kind of light up and they may ask another question, or you just continue on. But, I've been doing this for years now, so it does take practice. It does take patience. And for those who are not skilled at selling, one, you might want to go take a class, and then just practice with different types of approaches to people. I know some people who are extremely aggressive, and that doesn't suit my personality at all. It works well for them, but not for me. And so you just have to find that happy medium that works for you, and never be anybody else but who you are, because that sincerity is going to come across. And that's what's most important. So you don't want to be acting. You just want to be an extension of yourself. So that's my sales lecture for the day.
Yeah, and this is at least partly related. I mean, I don't have a lot of experience selling, but when I was a teacher, one of the things I learned pretty early on was because it's one of those things that if you explain something to a class of people, a group of people once, some of them are going to get it and some of them are not.
Correct.
So what I learned to do was come up with, when I'm going in to get a point across, I come up with 3 different ways to explain it. And I will kind of work those in throughout the time I have. And it very much increases the amount of people you get across to, because sometimes whatever one approach you come up with, what seems easiest to you, other people are not going to grab it.
Correct.
So
Correct.
and if you think your way around yourself and find another way to explain it, it often, I mean, even just, if nothing else, sometimes the repetition helps. And I mean, and
telling a story.
Right. And I mean, teaching and sales in a fundamental way are kind of not that different. Weirdly enough, it may sound weird to some
You're
people,
right.
but
I think you're right. No, I think you're absolutely right. When I was teaching crowdfunding, and even in my book, I tell stories about this is what happened with my friend, and I tell a story, and it, obviously has a point, and then people remember the stories, and therefore they remember the point. And for me, always the best way to educate people is by telling them a story. And pitching your comic or your novel or whatever is telling a story. And, they talk about the elevator pitch, which you should have. You should be able to pitch your story in, 2 sentences or less. If you can't, then there's probably something wrong with your story that needs to be fixed.
Could be.
That's what I've usually found is the case. Or someone says like, oh, it's too complex, I can't explain it. Well, then you have a problem.
Right. Then how are you going to tell the story in the first place?
How are you going to tell? Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's, and it takes practice and refining. And, my husband and I will be he's been doing more cons with me, and he'll say like, hey, I don't think this approach or this word is really working well with this crowd. What if we use this word instead? And so we'll talk about it, and then we'll go try it and see if that particular word works better for the crowd we're working in. And, sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. But yeah, I mean, the pitch for Boston Metaphysical has gone through a lot of refining over the years, and often sometimes depending on who you're talking to, you may change it up a little bit, but still ultimately, you're telling a story. And if someone is interested, they're going to stay at your table and talk to you. If they're not, they're going to go like, oh, thank you very much. Thank you for the bookmark. And I'll go like, great, have fun. Have a great day. And, they move on. Don't feel offended. Just let it go.
Right.
And go like, next.
Yeah.
Who's next?
You didn't have any impact on them. They don't need to have any impact on you. Get on with the next. Find somebody you can have a little impact with. And that's
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
you're looking for.
Never take it personally.
Mm-hmm.
So, which is fine. You just move on.
Yep.
So while we were sitting here, I got to see somebody else pledge.
Oh, sweet. They're still coming.
That's always fun. Yeah, we're up to 243 backers.
Awesome.
So, with 25 more days of this to go.
Please tell me you're not going to sit there and watch that counter the whole time.
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Actually, after this, we're going to go walk the dogs. And then we've gotten into some of the Korean dramas on Netflix. And oh my God, they're so good. I can't even begin to tell you. You must get Netflix, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most of us do.
Okay. There's these 2 Korean dramas we've watched. I like period pieces, and one is set in Japan. One is called My Country, and it's set in Korea. God, maybe in the 1500s or something. I'm not really sure. I'd have to go check. And then the one we're finishing up tonight is called Mr. Sunshine, and that's set in late 1800s Korea. And they're all kind of a slow burn at the beginning, and then they really ramp up. But the acting is superlative, and the production values have been great, and really interesting stories, and the female characters, very complex, right out in front. So that really pleased me to see all that. So that's like our new thing now, is like watching Korean dramas on Netflix.
Yeah, see, and I've heard from other sources that the Korean film scene is really impressive. Especially like in the last 20 years or so, they've been doing some really cool things there. So I haven't really done a lot of looking into it, but
yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, I don't remember the name of it, but a year or two ago we tried watching it. It was supposed to be a comedy. It was only like a half hour long, about a female plastic surgeon, modern day, who kind of gets thrown back into time, where she's back into a feudal Korea, and it's sort of like a comedic Korean Outlander.
Oh, wow.
And it got a little too goofy for me, so I had to stop watching it. But these other 2 dramas, My Country and Mr. Sunshine, have been extremely good. And you just can't wait. It's like, what's going to happen next? Oh, my God. I mean, we've like been binging it the last few nights and going to bed really late because we're like, oh my God, what's gonna happen next? Yeah, it's like
just one more.
What? Just okay. We'll stop a half an hour in. Promise.
Right.
Yeah. So we don't have to watch the whole thing.
Yeah. Sure we don't.
Right.
I'm sorry, if it's 3 hours long, I'm still there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think My Country is 15 episodes. Mr. Sunshine is 24, and they run about an hour and 15 minutes each.
That's
a
lot of watching.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of watching, but it really does. These last 5 episodes have just been to die for. So we're just going nutso. Us crazy Americans.
Yeah, I mean, and those are both, from what I understand, interesting times in Korea's history.
Yes.
There's, let's just say the Koreans and the Japanese have not always gotten along.
Oh, yeah. I am not up on Korean history whatsoever. But it was, particularly in the early 1900s, it was brutal. It was brutal. Japan essentially invaded.
Yeah, Japan has colonized Korea more than once.
Yes.
Historically speaking.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So I understand. So I'm trying to catch up on my Korean history.
Something else to read about, right?
I know. It's just, there's not enough time.
You'll never run out of things to read about.
No, not at all.
Is there a character or a book series that you would like to add to or pick up?
For my own enjoyment reading.
For your work to write.
Oh, for me to, and in addition to, that's not Boston Metaphysical?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. The answer is yes. I have a couple projects on the back, actually more than a couple, on the back burner. But unfortunately, since it's just me, running my little one-man operation here, don't really have time to do that. Occasionally I get to do some shorts for anthologies that have nothing to do with Boston Metaphysical, which is always a lot of fun. But yeah, the first novel I ever wrote was a middle grade novel that was a fantasy, and I'd like to go back to that and basically tear it up and start all over again. But take some of the there's certain core elements of it that I would like to use. But you got to do something. There's always going to be a first something, and the first novel is probably going to suck. As it should, but it's a learning tool. Storm of Secrets was the second novel I ever wrote. So I think writing the first novel was a good thing, because Storm of Secrets came out pretty well, I think. But I've also learned a lot from the reviews that have come in. And when I get reviews, I don't mind critical reviews at all if I learn something from it.
Constructive.
Yeah, and so I take that, and if I see kind of like the same notes in several reviews, I definitely take note of that. And I'm like, okay, clearly they have a point. Let me make a note of that so I don't do that again, or try to do whatever it is better. But no, I like to read critical reviews where I learn something about my own work, because that way I can become a better writer.
So you're one of those people that you do read the comments.
I do. I do, but I also take them in the spirit that they are, and where they're coming from, and I can usually tell where they're coming from, and the attitude, and what I should take seriously and what I shouldn't.
Right. What you should throw out and what
Yeah.
That's a skill that not all writers pick up. So that's where the whole "don't read the comments" meme comes from. I think is not everybody's able to handle that. But yeah,
well, that's when I say I think every writer should go to film school, because in film school you get your ass handed to you on a regular basis, and you learn to distinguish very quickly between what's constructive and what's personal, and then you throw out the personal type comments and you focus on the constructive ones. And then you learn, even if they're personal, you learn not to take it personally. And when that's happening to you over and over and over again, you learn how to take notes properly. And you also learn how to give notes properly.
Right.
Which is also important. And I mean, it's the same thing like when you're giving someone a yearly job review or something. It's the same thing. You want to start with a positive, because if you start with a negative, the walls just come up. You've lost them. Mm-hmm. They're never going to listen to you. Mm-hmm. But if you start with a positive, like, okay, I like this, and this of the book or what you're doing, but I think, this part could be stronger here, or, I really thought it started, too slow, or, something, then your mind is open to listening to it. So to me, it's very important to start with a positive, and then if you have, any real harsh criticism, to kind of sandwich it in between, good, not so good, good.
Right.
Right, and there are also better and worse ways to phrase the negative comments. I mean, they can be couched in nicer language than just to say, oh, this character sucks, they should just be deleted completely. Well, no,
yes.
maybe it's more a question of why does this character suck, and how could it be improved, and that sort of thing. But
yeah. So no, writing is hard work, and unless someone has actually tried to do it, to write a story, they really don't understand. But for those writers out there, find either a good writing group who will give you constructive criticism and support, or good beta readers like I have, who are kind yet critical. And I have one, he's always going like, I'm always afraid you're going to hate me when I tell you something negative. And I'm like, no. I want to hear the negative, because, when you start asking me all these questions, this tells me a lot that clearly I haven't done what I needed to do. And maybe I have the answer, but it's in my head and hasn't made it down on the page yet. Yeah. That happens a lot.
Mm-hmm. Because you know the story you're writing. Yep.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And the reason your guy there is a beta reader is because you want his opinion. You want it
absolutely.
Good and bad. You want the positive and the negative ones. You want them all. That's the deal. You didn't trust him, he wouldn't be a beta reader, right?
Right. Yeah. And it's nice because he's also very smart, and he's a physics professor.
Ooh, dang.
My other beta reader, also very, very smart woman, and no, but they're really clear, and so no, it's all good. I mean, I have beta readers for the comics as well, and I know with Ghosts and Demons, I did a first draft of that and sent it off to the physics professor, and he came back with a whole host of questions, and I just realized, okay, this is a problem.
Let's rework this.
And I did. I completely reworked it. I was just trying to do too much to please too many people. And so I really narrowed the story down and what the focus was, and then completely rewrote it, and then sent it out to, him again and 2 other beta readers, and got some more nuance. I mean, structurally it was fine, and then I went in and finessed it and did some more changing. But the comics I'm always rewriting. I mean, as the art comes in, I'm rewriting dialogue, and as the coloring comes in, I'm rewriting more, and I do it about 3 or 4 more times when all the art comes in before I hand it off to Troy to do the lettering. So it's a very layered approach for the comics.
Yeah,
So
it
yeah,
forces you to relook at your stuff multiple times.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Which if every writer did that, even with prose writing, that they would probably benefit. But
absolutely. It just happens to go a little faster with comics because you have a limited page count.
right.
But yeah, and then you have to put it aside and then come back. So you have fresh eyes on it
Yeah.
because your brain fills in the blanks all the time. I remember, I think, in Scourge the Mechanical Man, I had completely missed that Troy had flipped 2 sets of dialogue. And my husband proofs, after Troy does the lettering, I have my husband do a copy edit, and he caught it. He goes, he just flipped these 2. And I'm like, what?
Wow.
And I'm going like, Troy, this belongs to a different character. And he was like, okay. And, he fixed it instantly. But no, it's a long, arduous process. And, I look at the early Boston Metaphysical, the first original 6 issues, and wish I could rewrite those. But the art's locked, so we're done.
Please don't do it. Please don't do a George Lucas on us.
Oh, no.
Please don't.
Uh,
Yeah.
and speaking of
Samuel
your,
shot first. Samuel shot first. No. No.
No, it would just be more like I see things like dialogue where I have some what I call repeat beats and where I could use the space more effectively because I like to think I'm a better writer now than when I first wrote that. And it's not that it's bad, it's just it could always be better.
Could be better, right?
Yes. But it was the 6-issue miniseries was the first comics I ever wrote.
Right.
So, and it's the first sequential art comic book that Emily ever did. So,
Oh wow.
I think we did okay.
Yeah.
I agree.
yeah, for sure. And I noticed on your Kickstarter, for people who haven't read that or seen that you do offer copies of that for some of your backers.
Yes, you can get a digital version or the trade paperback. Yeah, we have it for those who have either a limited budget or limited shelf space. Mm-hmm. We have a great comics digital bundle, which has the trade, Ghosts and Demons, Spirit of Rebellion, and Scourge of the Mechanical Man. So you get all the comics.
For those folks who are just now working their way into the fold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That is. And actually, I have to say, not badly priced either for everything you're giving here. I've noticed all your pledges are very reasonable.
Yeah, I try hard to do that. I want it to be within, reach with people, but also so that we can produce the product.
Right. Keep the lights on, as it were.
Yeah.
Yeah. Keep the lights on. Yeah, we have a super digital bundle, which basically has everything. It has all of the comics, has Storm of Secrets, the novel, a prelude, the anthology, and the short story Hereby Monsters. And that's for $40.
Yeah.
It's a lot of stuff.
Not bad.
$40.
That is.
The whole kit and caboodle. And then, of course, we have the new pin, which is a bowler hat. I don't know if you guys know this, but every year I kind of run a little contest for pin ideas. And people just, it's on Facebook, just on my, my personal page. And whoever I decide to pick, and if we produce it, then they get a pin. So I do have a winner, and so we will be producing them. And I'm sure I will meet up with him, and he will get his free pin.
Those are nice.
That's cool.
I do that. They actually turn out very well. I'm always pleased with the pin people, and they've been a very good company and responsible too. They at one point, I think it's it's customlapelpins.com. Give them a little plug. Yeah, they screwed up one time. I was last year, I had ordered the new teapot pin, and what shows up but a whole new box of triquetra from the previous year.
Oh no.
Oh no, yeah. So I take a picture and I email the guy, I think his name's Mike, he's actually the president of the company. I said, Mike, we have a little problem here. And it was an error on their end, so they let me keep the box of triquetras and got the teapot pins made.
Wow.
And shipped them out. You know, they said, it's our fault, we're going to fix it. And they did. So kudos to them.
Yep, that's pretty cool.
Yep, it is. Yeah, I'm excited to read this one. And I'm reading May. Is that correct?
Yes.
Or
Yeah, May. It might be earlier, depending on how well we do. One of the later stretch goals that I have planned will be to print in North America.
Ah,
And if we print in North America, we'll be able to get it a month earlier.
cool.
Nice.
So, yeah, that
I
is.
hope you hit those.
Yeah, I have like 5 or 6 already planned. And so, yeah, I very much want to hit that because I would love to get that in earlier. But unfortunately, it costs more.
Yeah.
So, but I love being able to deliver things early to people. We were able to do that last year. We did well enough last year that I just decided to print domestically. And so people got their books like 6 weeks early.
Wow.
So they were very happy, and I was happy to do it.
Right.
Very impressive.
Yeah. Well, when you do something nice like this, it's like, look. I want you to see too.
Right. You're excited to share.
Exactly. It's contagious.
Oh, yeah.
So you said you could sell your book in 2 sentences. What would it be?
Oh, my elevator pitch, which I think you guys have already heard, is Boston Metaphysical Society is about an ex-Pinkerton detective, a spirit photographer, and a genius scientist who battle supernatural forces in late 1800s Boston. So think steampunk X-Files.
Very cool.
And then if they like that, then they usually ask more questions and then go into more detail and that's great. But if it's like, well, no, I like superheroes, they're like, okay, that's cool. Or is this appropriate for children? No, not really.
Next.
No. I can safely say obviously the coloring book will be no problem there.
Right.
But I would say Boston Metaphysical is fine for 10 and above. But I would say the 10 to 12-year-olds, depending on how mature they are, may not understand some of the social issues and the nuances.
Right.
But there's, no graphic violence or sex. There's some scary parts that I know, maybe under 8, it might be kind of scary for them. But often, there is some little gruesomeness and scourge. And so I usually show parents that, ahead of time. Like if their little kid is short, I bring it up to the parents' face and say like, okay, we have this dissected pig here, is this okay or not? And some of them are like, no, it's not. I said, okay, I just wanted to show you so I don't want any upset parents. And they said, we really appreciate that. And then others will go like, whatever.
Yeah. They'll see it in school.
Right.
Yeah, they have no problem.
Well, and I think some of it's a question of how comfortable the grown-ups are with it too. I mean,
Right.
Correct.
They're going to be, if they're uncomfortable with it, they're going to be a lot less comfortable showing their kid.
I once had a 8 to 10-year-old boy, this was years ago, who basically gave me a synopsis of my first issue when his dad said, "Which one of these have we read?" When he came up to my table, and the kid did a complete synopsis of issue 1. So I went like, okay, then you need issues 2 and 3. And they said, okay, we'll have issues 2 and 3. So I was impressed with that kid.
For sure. Huh.
Not all of them are like that.
Yeah, that's pretty precocious for an 8-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The Kickstarter ends the morning of February 21st, which I think is, what day is that? It's a Friday. We are about $400 from reaching our first stretch goal.
Cool.
About $450? Yeah, about $450. And we have many more planned after that. So get on now. So if you're going to pledge, do it now so everybody can get more stuff. Lots and lots of stuff.
Yep. That's what people like. They like stuff.
Yep. We like stuff.
And we want
But
them to
you
like
can't-
your stuff, Madeline.
Yes. You can get a digital copy of Ghosts and Demons for $6. But if you want a hard copy of it, that's it'll be $10 plus postage. But if you want the Ghosts and Demons and the coloring book, that's $20, and that includes postage, which I think is a very good deal, actually.
That is.
Oh, yeah, including the shipping. That's a big one. That's a rough one when you drop down $20 or $30 on a Kickstarter, only to find at the end that, oh no, we need $8 more for shipping. Didn't really budget that. Okay. Yeah. So that's cool.
That is cool.
And obviously, we will link the Kickstarter in our show notes. And
Yep.
I have no plans to stop retweeting the links to it until it's over. So
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Always a pleasure talking to you. We appreciate your time you give to us.
Well, I thank you guys too. I appreciate your support. It's always very helpful, and it's always a lot of fun to talk to people who've read the material and who have questions about it, and that's always fun for me.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, if we can be of any assistance, be sure to contact us.
Yep.
I will do that. Thank you, Les. But if that's it, I need to go walk the dogs.
Mhm.
yeah, no problem.
Thank you, Madeline.
Yes,
Thank you very
Thanks a lot.
much. I will talk to you later.
All right,
All right.
great.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you.
And we're back. It is time for our weekly picks, and leading off this week is Liz.
All right. For my first pick, it's out of DC Comics, and it's Crimes of Passion. This is going to be their Valentine's issue, 10 stories. It's going to be narrated by the 1937's detective Slam Brady, or Bradley. Bradley? I'm sorry, Bradley?
Slam Bradley.
Okay. Sounds like it's going to have all the greats, Joker, Harley Quinn, Batman, Catwoman. The covers look just amazing. One of them has the old 37's like noir detective feel to them. And the other one, trying to remember the name, Ryan, but I can't remember his last name. Ryan Brown. He did a variant for this one with Batman and Catwoman, which just looks absolutely amazing. So this definitely is a one shot. Like I said, 10 stories, $10, can't go wrong.
Kind of cool to see Slam back. It's been a while.
It's also kind of cool.
I like that idea.
To start
Yep.
getting the Valentine's Day crossover things going on.
Yeah.
Guess
I mean,
They're doing it
I mean,
fine. Yeah.
Alrighty, Mike, you're next.
Okie dokie. My first pick is from Image Comics, and there's a couple of reasons I'm kind of excited to see this. This is called The After Realm, and this is the first quarterly issue of this book. This is a book created by Michael Avon Oeming, who was one of the creators of Powers, which a lot of people have heard of. And he's also done some work with Thor and Red Sonja in his time. And this story is kind of in a Thor vein. This is a post-apocalyptic society after Ragnarok. And so his main character is going on a quest to discover the fate of the old gods. So this is kind of right up my fantasy alley, and I like the idea that it's a bigger quarterly book. I'm glad to see that Image is doing another one of these, given the success of the way that they restructured Lazarus. I think it'll be fun. I kind of like this idea in general, and I know we've talked about it more than once before, but the idea of doing a bigger quarterly book just makes so much sense to me. But yeah, this is going to be a good one.
Nice.
I agree. I had this one on my sites too. It was pretty nice looking.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty, I'm next, and for my first pick, I am picking a first issue of a miniseries from Marvel Comics called Dark Agnes, and this is written by Becky Cloonan, with art by Luca Pizzari. And this is actually based off a Robert E. Howard character, who the short stories published sometime after he passed away. But Agnes is actually, according to the synopsis, she was forced into a marriage and then left that rather violently, apparently, and has become a mercenary. So, and this is in 16th century France. And this sounds actually really cool. So I'm kind of curious to see. I've never read the stories. I didn't even know anything about this character, but I definitely want to check this out. And this is supposed to be taking place after the short story, so. But I'm sure they'll make some references to kind of get people caught up to the speed. But I'm curious.
Yeah, that's interesting that they're based on Howard stories. Also,
Yeah.
That's an interesting time period to be doing something like that in. So it's that would be a little bit before like Three Musketeers
Right.
era stuff. So should be fun.
Yeah.
I agree.
Alrighty, Les, you're next.
My first choice comes from the Book Palace. It is John Steele, and it is a collection of stories post-World War II where the title character, John Steele, takes on gangsters, Nazis, and spies in London Soho. It's actually prose, but there is art in this. One of them is Luis Bermeo, and if you've seen his stuff, it's truly spectacular. So I've got a feeling this is going to be similar to the reprints of the old Doc Savage stories, where you would have a half page or a page of an illustration. And it looks like you've got 3 or 4 stories in this. So I'm in on this because of the concept, and I'm looking forward to something new to read.
That sounds interesting.
Yeah, I'd really be interested to see the art for that because Bermejo's
Yeah.
kind of really good,
Just
kind of really good, And then of course you've got the whole crime fiction thing, which awesome.
Mm-hmm. Alrighty, Liz, you're up again.
Okay. For my second pick, I've recommended this one probably every 3 issues that's been collected in this. It's the Harleen hardcover. It was a really interesting story. I think with the popularity and the ground that she's gaining, they're trying to nail down some kind of good origin story for Harley. Although nothing is wrong with her previous. But this was a different kind of story. I really liked seeing her out of the Harley character and actually a little bit more as Harleen. So we said this will collect all 3 issues. Really good story. Like I said, it was a different kind of story for Harley than what we're used to. So pick this one up.
Okay.
Cool.
I'm ready for this.
Mm-hmm. The art and everything has just been so really well done in this story.
Yes.
Alrighty, Mikey.
Okay, so my second pick is from Aftershock Comics, and I'm going to shock some people with this one, not the least of which by the title. But I'm going to give the cleaned up promo version of the title. The title of this book is The Man Who Effed Up Time. There are lots of fun symbols on the cover where the effed part is, so I'll just leave that to everybody's imagination for now. This is issue number 1 of a new story from John Layman, which is a big part of why I'm interested in this. But this is a story of a guy who is just a normal worker in a high-tech lab, which is currently working on a prototype time machine. So yeah, this is a time travel story. But it's basically a time travel story of how to and how not to screw up the time stream along the way. And so they describe it, and I will quote the synopsis here, is a time-twisted sci-fi action comedy. So I am curious.
Yep.
I mean, Layman's good, so I'm just curious to see how far he'll take the comedy and how far he'll take the whole screwing with the time stream concept.
The thing that sold me on this was reading that synopsis. It was talking about the fact that something bad is going to happen, right? Well, did you catch the title of the book? It's like, so you're like,
yeah.
So I definitely. So I'm like, okay, so yes, this was definitely on my radar.
When the synopsis gets meta, it's going to be, you know what you're in store for. Yeah.
Right.
Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I am next, and my second pick, I am going with Young Justice number 13. This is from DC Comics. And this has been written by Brian Michael Bendis, but this issue he's joined by David Walker. And the team is looking for Connor, but apparently he's wound up on Skitaris. So yes, we're seeing the Warlord back, and of course, just for good measure, Mike Grell is doing the art. Okay, I'm in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, it's nice to see the Warlord again. It's nice to see Mike Grell again. So this should be kind of cool.
Yep. Nice.
Alrighty, Les, you're next.
My second choice is Adler number 1. This is from Titan Books. And Adler, to those that know of Sherlock Holmes, recognize Irene Adler as the love interest for Holmes. And in this book, she has a mission to take down Moriarty. The synopsis states it's the League of Extraordinary Gentlewomen, as Adler teams up with a host of female faces from science, history, and literature. I'm in on this on so many levels, and I'm ready for this. I want to see this come out quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was on my radar as well. And our honorable mention this week is...
All right, our honorable mention this week is from Action Lab Comics. This is from their Danger Zone label, which is the grown-up stuff. And we have talked about this book before, kind of a lot, really, but that's okay. That's because it's good. We wouldn't talk about it if it wasn't good. Anyway, Going to the Chapel, number 4. This is the last issue of the series, of this, at least of this portion of the series. I would not be opposed to seeing more, but we're gonna have to see how this one ends first, because who knows if there's gonna be anything left. The whole thing has been a delightful mess to begin with, and our old buddy David Pepose and company are wrapping it up here. This has actually kind of been delayed a little bit, so we've been kind of waiting patiently or semi-patiently for it. But here it comes. If you have not read the previous 3 issues, track them down if you can, and check this one out, because it's a fun story.
It has been.
Yep.
So glad to see this one coming out.
Yep.
Alrighty. Well, I'm sure we're going to have some special mentions this week.
Yeah, a couple, at the very least.
Yeah. Obviously, we'd like to thank Madeline for being on with us. I hope you all enjoyed the interview.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Go check out the Kickstarter.
Yep. I'm going to leave the next one to you, Mikey.
Oh, lucky me.
Lucky you.
Because this one is really fucking hard.
It is.
And it's one of those where you're like, number one, it's going to happen anyway. I mean, nobody lives forever, but it still hurts. And the other flip side of this is, if we can get 30 years between pythons dying every time, we'll be in great shape.
Yeah.
So yes, we've lost the second of the 6 Monty Python cast members. Terry Jones passed away this week. He had actually been ill for quite a while, with I believe it was
Dementia.
described as a rare form of dementia.
Yeah.
So yeah, I believe he was 77.
Yep.
Good life. Obviously very funny guy. And the thing that it's funny, the thing that at least one of the Pythons pointed out in talking about him was, I think it was 2 of them. I think Cleese and Palin both pointed out that he was the director of Life of Brian.
Right.
Yeah.
Which a lot of them really, really enjoyed the experience of making that movie, despite the fact that it was hot as hell where they were making it, because they were making it in Africa and in I'm blanking on the Morocco, I believe it was, or Algeria, I forget which, but yeah, Northern Africa. But yeah, that was kind of I mean, they didn't necessarily lead with it, but they made a point of pointing out that, I mean, he put together a really brilliant movie in that one. So yeah, really, that was a really hard one to take this week.
Yeah. You mentioned Life of Brian. I saw in several areas people posting a picture from that film, and they said mother and son together again. And I was just like, I want to laugh, but I really don't want to laugh. But because it's kind of, because it's funny, but it's like, yeah, but they're gone.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, you can't imagine them not wanting you to have fun with it somehow.
Well, and they had fun with it because I mean, even the social media for Monty Python said exactly like that: 2 down, 4 to go, and you're just going, yeah, okay,
Yeah. Right. I mean, you do the best you can with it.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they made us laugh a lot. So
yeah.
I have another one unless unless somebody else wants to go.
Okay, go ahead.
This is going to be maybe an odd one for this show, but I'm going to throw it out there anyway mainly because it happened today, but
Right.
also because it sucks. Um, Former Lakers great Kobe Bryant died in a helicopter crash today in Los Angeles,
Yeah.
which is he was not. I mean, you talk about Terry Jones being 77. Kobe was not. He was way younger than that, and nobody. That's just rough, man.
He was 41.
That's hard on a lot of people. I mean, he had a lot of fans. I mean, he had a lot of people make fun of him too, but he had a lot of fans, and that's just rough.
And his 13-year-old daughter.
Yep.
Oh God.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that part.
Yeah. The what it sounds like, and of course this is going to be obviously going to be investigated. This was his private helicopter, and he and his daughter were going to a game that she plays basketball. If you know anything about her, they were going to a game that she was going to play, and they were actually carrying a teammate of hers and that teammate's parent. So they were flying to the game, and apparently it was very foggy. So we'll know more. We'll know more as the days go by. But that apparently it was all weather related. So
Yeah.
Yikes.
Horrible.
That's rough.
yeah.
I don't watch sports, but I know who Kobe is.
Okay, what's the tap?
You know? That is Flacco.
Okay. Sorry, it's just surprisingly loud tapping. That's all.
Yes, he's right beside
Sorry,
me.
didn't mean to interrupt, but
No. But yeah, so he's definitely a legend, you know.
yeah.
And Shaq on Twitter, that's what made me like lose it. He's like, you know, his kids were like my kids, and they played with my kids, and it's like losing family.
Yep.
Yeah. This was obviously shocking, and it's very very sad. And of course our thoughts and well wishes are to the family, and of course the Laker family and all the fans of Kobe. So.
Yep.
Any other special mentions or shout outs?
I think I've done enough damage to this one.
Well, those were the twos I was thinking of, so, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll do our regular shout-outs. First off, the Pop Goes the Culture podcast network for allowing us to be a part of a great group of shows. Definitely check them out. We'll have a link in our show notes. We do appreciate their support. And, of course, we always appreciate the support of Potter and Family on Twitter, retweeting and sharing the links to our podcasts. We highly recommend you go check out some of their fine work, and the best way to do that is to go to Twitter and do a search, #Potter and Family, one word, and just scroll through, and whatever catches your fancy, by all means, download that episode, and hopefully you have a good time. Thank you guys for your support. I want to thank Manny the Martyr for supplying our music for our show. There will be a link in the show notes for some of their fine music. Definitely check them out. And finally, you, dear listener, thank you for downloading and listening to today's episode. We always appreciate your support, and we value your feedback. Any comments, questions, some suggestions, complaints, observations, whatever, please send them our way. There's several ways you can contact us. Our email address is email@thefellowshipofthegeeks.net, or you can go to the website and click on the About Us page. There's a contact form that you can fill out there. I've already mentioned our Facebook page. Please follow us there, and you can contact us through there. And, of course, check out our Facebook event for the Meet and Gab that's happening in February. We're also on Twitter, obviously, @Fellowship Geeks. Follow us there. If you like to follow our individual Twitter accounts, Mike can be found @MikeyGeek. Liz can be found @LN_geek. And I can be found @TomTCGeek. And from wherever you download and listen to our podcasts, it would be greatly appreciated if you would rate and review our shows. Thank you very much. Any final thoughts before we say goodbye?
Yes, thanks, everybody.
Yep. Thank you, everyone.
Appreciate you listening.
Thanks for listening, everybody. We do appreciate your support as always. And until next time, geek on, my friends. We thank you for listening to the show. Comments, suggestions, and questions can be sent to email@thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. You can follow us on Facebook @thefellowshipofthegeeks and on Twitter @fellowshipgeeks. Until next time,